To return to the events of Reading over the weekend, an American man has been named as a second victim of that attack at a park in Reading over the weekend. Joe Ritchie Bennett had lived in the UK for 15 years. His father has confirmed that fact to the US TV network CBS. James Furlong, who was head of history, government and politics at the Holt School in Wokingham, has also died. The identity of the third victim has not yet been released. Meanwhile, police continue to question the suspect in Saturday's attack, Khairi Sadala, who's been arrested under the Terrorism Act. It's understood he originates from Libya and came to the attention of MI5 in 2019. Britain, of course, has had a complicated history with Libya. Back in 2011, the then Prime Minister David Cameron and former French President Nicolas Sarkozy went on a visit to Tripoli, the first by Western leaders since Colonel Gaddafi was ousted. Speaking in Benghazi's Tahrir Square, the focal point of the uprising, Mr. Cameron said the city had been an inspiration to the world.
It is great to be here in free Benghazi and in free Libya. Your city was an inspiration to the world as you threw off a dictator and chose freedom. People in Britain salute your courage. And while we are proud of the role that we played to help, we know this was your revolution from your bravery, from people in Benghazi, people in Tripoli, people in Sritan, people in Brega, people in Misrata. You showed the world you would get rid of a dictator and you would choose freedom. Colonel Gaddafi said he would hunt you down like rats, but you showed the courage of lions, and we salute your courage. And your friends in Britain and in France will stand with you as you build your democracy and build your country for the future. Thank you very much.
Former Prime Minister David Cameron speaking there. Let's talk now to Inga Trauthig, a research fellow at the International Centre for the Study of Radicalisation at King's College London. Research focuses on contemporary Libya. Welcome.
Yeah, hello, Emma.
Thank you for joining us today. Libya has been implicated in some of the most infamous terror attacks in recent times, and the Manchester arena bombing, of course, comes to mind. Tell us more about your reading of that.
So I would like to start with saying that so far the information that we have on this attack, this tragic stabbing attack in Reading, is that the 25-year-old had mental health issues. He was in prison for minor offenses. He also is of Libyan background. So the fact that he's Libyan is really only one of these variables. And we don't know the role that his Libyan background plays currently. My inclination is to say we actually need to look much more into the mental health issues that young adults might be carrying with them when emerging from conflict or post-conflict zones. Like the example or the speech by Cameron that you just showed on your program, it was a very, very emotional moment for many Libyans. This was in 2011. The young adult, he was 16 at the time, and in Libya. And we don't know what exactly was the impact of him being in Libya and then in the civil war the years after.
You're right to say there are many unknowns at the moment, but I suppose it's a moment that people will perhaps think again about Libya, which is why it's good to have you on the programme to put us in the picture and our relationship as a country with Libya. How would you describe it?
Yeah, so if we look at recent history, I would say, of Libya, I'd really divide it in 4 phases. We had Gaddafi coming to power, and then many years, like stretching from the 70s, 80s, of very strenuous, difficult relationships of Gaddafi to the West, but also particularly the UK. The Lockerbie bombing comes to mind, the launch of a program for the development of weapons of mass destruction. But there was a decisive turn under the Tony Blair government in the early 2000s, where the Libyan government almost saw the UK as an ally, and we had close relationships between the heads of government. And then the third phase, 2011, as you just pointed out, David Cameron, together with Sarkozy, really the ones pushing for a NATO intervention on support on side of the rebels to topple the Gaddafi government, ultimately. But then this leads us to 2020, and 2020 again is a very different picture. It's not the UK that seems to be most proactive on the Libya file, not even in terms of European powers. France, Italy, much more active. If this is for good or the better, that's a different judgment, but the UK seems to be more in the background now, less active on Libya, actually, even though Libya is in a very difficult state.
Less active at the moment. I was then going to try and understand where we are at the moment with it. If that's how you describe it, then fair enough. Of course, if you wish to say more, let us know on that. But the point, I suppose, is in a bigger question is how much do you think our recent relationship has had an impact on how Libyans feel about the West and about the UK?
So I need to emphasize that I cannot speak on the behalf of any Libyan or all Libyans.
No.
But what I can say, working on Libya, is that definitely there seems to be a feeling of neglect. And also, to be honest, if you look at the last years, very much an Anglo-American focus on counterterrorism policy regarding Libya. So the UK was involved again in 2015 when Islamic State had a province, had a very active presence in Sirte, was governing a Libyan city. Then the UK became more active again. However, in terms of really building up the Libyan state, which has crumbled in recent years, I don't think there's much of a feeling of commitment to the UK currently.
Inga, thank you very much for your time. Inga Trauthig, Research Fellow at the International Centre for the Study of Radicalisation at King's College, London, and her research focuses on contemporary Libya.